everyone. I'm Ronnie Fogelman. I'm president and founder of Ledgerock Consulting.
Hi, and I'm Jody Ashley. I'm the Director of Client Services.
And we are very happy to have you join us once again for an interview in our series From Their Perspective. We're going to be able to bring you over the next few months some interviews with senior management. We'll have some CEOs, COOs, vice presidents, directors. We're going to look at operations. We're going to look at sales and marketing and some business development.
And today I'm really excited to have John Cowan with us. John is the Executive Director at Givens Estates in Asheville, North Carolina. So welcome, John.
Thank you, Jody and Ronnie. It's great to be with you.
Okay, well, good. We're going to jump right into the first question because from what you and we've all talked about, we all know that we've had a very challenging year in our industry. Not only are we dealing with a pandemic, but we've also been through a tumultuous election time. We've had challenges in just our own operations, and on top of everything else that our administrators and executive directors handle on a daily basis. So we thought the first question that we would ask you is to go back prior to the pandemic, maybe go back 4 or 5 years, and tell us what you think has been the biggest change in our industry.
Over the past 5 years, yeah. I'm going to tell you, a lot of that change has occurred within the past year. It's been really remarkable how creative and nimble we've had to become over the past year. But I would say the biggest change during that period of time has been technology for us in terms of the role that it is playing, the importance of technology in the lives of the residents that we serve at every level of care, whether that individual's living in our health center or in our independent living. That high-speed internet, that connectivity, that and then during the past year, during the pandemic, the role that technology has played in staying connected with one another, accessing services and resources. It's just been instrumental. So fortunately at Givens Estates, we've been for more than a decade investing in that infrastructure so that we have robust Wi-Fi, that we have the high-speed connectivity, and thank goodness that we never thought that it would play the role that it has over the past year in terms of just keeping our operations going, having our operations meetings while keeping people safe and distanced, keeping families and residents, the telemedicine, we have been catapulted over the past 12 months. And I mean, what probably would have taken another 3 to 5 years within 12 months, we have become so proficient. And those that we serve and provide services to, we spend a lot of time in that regard as well, educating them. Our programs, all of our exercise, for that period of time, and it's not going to go away. We'll continue to stream live. We're renovating our wellness center and all of our exercise, and we're putting the ability to live stream our classes, because what we learned is that a lot of residents aren't comfortable participating in those classes, or they may not feel well enough, and they'll participate at home. It's been amazing, the feedback that we've received. A lot of the programmatic things that we're doing using technology. Ordering your meal now using a meal app as we're opening some new dining venues. And if you're going to do a takeout order, and we went ahead and implemented this. Everybody had time to stay home and learn how to use it. So we implemented our new dining app, and residents now, they can order. It'll tell them in 10 minutes your order will be ready, come down and pick it up. And so that's allowing us to continue as we move out of the pandemic, and even in the future, these things are not going to go away. So I've been amazed by how important technology is, and how we've all been forced within a short amount of time to learn how to more effectively utilize it. You know, telemedicine, dining, our exercise activity, keeping people connected, residents connected with their families from a distance. And it just, the list goes on and on. So, and then, you know, I think bigger is maybe not always better as it relates to skilled nursing, you know, in those care settings in particular. And, you know, those settings are going to get smaller, more family, home-like. I don't think bigger's better. More privacy, you know, so what we also learned during the pandemic, sharing a room isn't necessarily a great thing from a infectious disease perspective. And we already had a plan to downsize and to go to all private rooms. It just expedited that planning for us. You know, we're ahead of that schedule now. So I think more room, more privacy, smaller. I think, you know, I think that, you know, those are some of the takeaways, some of the learnings for us. The other learning is that community, people being together. There, at the same time, there's not anything that can replace that, and how important that aspect is. So the technology is great, and I don't want folks to misunderstand that. I think it's all about that. We still have to connect people, bring them together. That's what keeps people looking forward to the next day and looking forward to tomorrow. And that's one of the reasons I think that our average age on our campus is so, everybody's so old. We all love old, right? And I'm becoming one of them.
We all are.
But, you know, it's the social interaction, it's the connection, caring about one another. We really learned how detrimental people not being able to be together, be with their loved ones, be with their friends, how we learned how important that is to overall well-being. And there's nothing that takes the place of that.
So when you look at all of that, John, and how what you think everybody's learned, number one, and how that's going to move into the future, what do you think? Can you talk to us a little bit about the industry as a whole, the independent living, the assisted living, the home care? What do you see as changes that might be coming to the forefront in the whole industry as a whole?
Yeah, I think one of our biggest struggles is how capital intensive what we do is. You know, it's what we do with our facilities and all of our amenity space is really expensive. And I think we've got to find ways to provide a same level of service and support in less expensive ways. And I see that happening in a number of different ways, such as some of these naturally occurring retirement communities in certain neighborhoods. I see it happening where these multi-use or where you have apartments and housing, and where they're beginning to integrate active senior housing, assisted living into those communities, and then they're taking advantage of the restaurants and the YMCA that's in that particular development. You know, they're taking advantage of all the amenities that are occurring as part of that community. The cost of our services, we've got to address that. And so I think that's the reason we're seeing a lot of active adult communities pop up in those types of settings. So that, to the traditional life plan community model, I think and we're going to have to move in that direction. And then people staying in their homes now, because we've all figured out how to stay in our homes and get our groceries delivered. And those services, those services being provided are sort of a threat to that traditional model, if you look at it like that. But it's also at the same time, any threat can be turned into an opportunity. So if you're paying attention to it, you can use that to your benefit. And so to me, that's sort of, I think there'll be smaller communities that will arise. Bigger is not always, folks are wanting a more intimate type setting. So I think that our traditional life plan communities are going to have to find ways to take, to learn from what's happening in the markets at large and apply that so that we can become more efficient, less costly, and then also diversify in terms of the services that we're providing. Mm-hmm. I will tell you one observation from the pandemic as it relates to in-home services, at least in my area. I found in-home services not prepared for what they found during the pandemic. They were not able to meet the needs, meet the demand. They didn't have a lot of the structures and processes in place. So I think that's an opportunity for a lot of the traditional communities to step up, to look at how we're providing in-home services, and I think to maybe beef up those services. It was amazing how unorganized those services were during the pandemic, and when they had outbreaks among their labor, they weren't able to, people went without care and services. So there are some, there's some cracks in that staying at home, and calling attention to that and figuring out a way to shore up those types of services, I think can give us a competitive advantage. But
can you give us an example of how that home care broke down? Just a little, just so some people listening can hear something specific about what might have happened.
Yeah, well, a good example would be, so you have home health that is, it's certified Medicare, Medicaid, and then you have this array, at least in North Carolina, you have this array of licensed home care agencies. Right. Mm-hmm. So there are a lot of mom and pop almost type home care type agencies. And then there's some larger ones, more sophisticated, better organized national home care agencies as well. And, we had situations where a resident in independent living became ill. They hired a group to come in to provide those in-home services. And then when they contracted COVID, the home care agency wasn't prepared to be able to continue to meet the needs of that individual with COVID. There were gaps because of the way the labor is deployed. So oftentimes your staff are not checking in at they'll leave their home and go. So the screening, we were doing the screening now for all these agencies, trying to do the screening. But then workers, there was lack of accountability and screening for those individuals. So they were going into homes and transmitting. We had a number of situations where we had a number of residents that were exposed from a home care agency worker, and then we had to quarantine all these residents. We had situations where we had residents become ill as a result. So I think they're somewhat decentralized. So again, I think there's an opportunity because of in a life plan community, the amount of structure, organization, the ability to provide oversight. And we benefit from having the knowledge from the more heavily regulated areas as well. I think that puts us in a good position to provide these in-home services, and to be able to continue to provide those services when you have extenuating circumstances.
Yeah, it sounds like that was a challenge that they weren't prepared to handle. So when you think about all these changes that are coming, and I agree with you, I think some of them have already started, but it's going to accelerate, and a lot of what we're dealing with is going to continue. How do you see, if you can share with us, how do you think this is going to impact the marketing and the sales of our industry, of our independent and skilled?
Well, we know that our marketing and sales teams are really nimble, and we know they're creative. If they're not, they need to be. I think over the past year, I really have grown in my appreciation and admiration for the team that I'm blessed with, to work alongside. So again, I think being nimble, being able to adapt our, the models of service that we're providing. I think the use of technology, again, I don't see that going away in terms of prospects, identifying prospects in your primary market area. But what we learned is now we have our primary market area it's unlimited. So we could go beyond 2 hours. We could go 4 hours away still in our state and invite folks and have folks interested and move to our area. So it's amazing to me, the technology now and how limitless it is. So because we can create these series of informational seminars, sessions, or just chat, come together to learn more anywhere in the Washington metro, DC metro area, in New Hampshire in the winter when the winter storms are raging. That's a good time. We learn some of these things.
That's true.
And we're able to be very nimble. And just recently, because we can't have our typical large groups come for afternoon wine and cheese, and learn more. We're doing that afternoon session. We're doing those virtually. And so our sort of an annual get together with our wait list, not doing that in person, we sent out an email, and within 2 weeks, we brought, more than 200 people together on a Zoom meeting, talking about how we've weathered the past year, our vaccination program, which is a wonderful story. We have this vaccination bubble now on our campus, talking about all of our new amenity areas that are coming online, our new apartment, and within just that hour and a half session, you end up with folks moving off your wait list, interested in moving into. So being nimble, utilizing the technology, being creative, looking at new ways, I think that's critical. I also think from a strategic, not so much a sales and marketing, but from a strategic perspective, as we're looking at as we're doing our strategic planning, that we have to be more open to non-traditional partnerships and collaborating with new types of partners. It could be a developer that's developing a retail apartment home complex where they might have an interest in an assisted living or a senior housing apartment building, that we can partner with, or looking at the opportunities with existing home care, home health providers, because we can't be expert in everything. So looking at those partnerships so that we can strategically forge those relationships and become stronger, and not always be the expert in everything. I think that's the way that we're going to compete with people staying in their homes and with other new models that are beginning to emerge.
John, since COVID, how do you think the needs of your prospects have changed? Or haven't they? Are they still looking for the same things?
I think there are certain areas that they're more knowledgeable about and they're paying more attention to now than they were before. So it's been a challenge, right? If you are, and we've had to walk that fine line between being rational, in particular on our independent living side. So you're trying to make the right decisions based on the science about how do we keep folks safe and healthy. And that's been, so they're asking those questions. What are you doing? What are you going to be doing in the future? They're asking about the heating and cooling and the outside air intake. And, so I think I know our operations are changing. I think shared rooms in your assisted living, and well, we don't have them, but in skilled nursing, I think shared rooms are going to be a thing of the past. I think you're looking at more connection with nature and easy access to outdoors. I think folks are looking for a community to be able to provide some leadership in crisis situations. And we're well positioned to be able to do it, but we're getting those questions where we used to never get those types of questions.
Yeah.
I think their needs are, I think their expectations still are very high as it relates to dining, to your amenity, your wellness. Sort of dining and wellness are still two of the most important. More autonomy, more residents insist on being involved, actively involved in decisions that are made that impact them. And they should be.
And they should.
And that's not just in independent living, that's important in your assisted and skilled care. They're asking very smart questions about staff turnover and, those types of, and what are you doing, and, a living wage. And I think folks are, so our culture is changing, and folks are more in tune and aware. So I think that's, so the, more socially minded, maybe more culturally inclusive. But the basic need of connection and people being together, that's something that I think we can uniquely provide in a life plan community. And we learned how valuable that is when we weren't able to have that.
Sure.
In terms of personal well-being, health status, good mental health, longevity. And, sometimes it's more already, we don't have dine-in yet. People are not eating in our dining rooms yet, but we started back takeout. and man, the social interaction that occurs responsibly, but how people light up. Their affect is so much more positive. Everybody's starved for that. That is something that we're uniquely positioned to be able to provide, that we need to talk about that sense of community and bringing people together and the positive impact that has. And it just doesn't always happen naturally. There are things that you do programmatically, socially, that you provide so that those what appears to be natural interaction, that's, they're things that sort of help that along.
Mhm.
There is some structure behind what appears to be the informality of it all.
Right, right. Well, I know we even just in our role, because we've been pulled back so much and have been doing so much from home,
Right.
we have a client next week that we get to travel to Pittsburgh, and we're all excited that we actually
Yeah.
get to go and be with people and get out there. So
1 year.
yeah, I mean, you're right. It is really an important part, and I think it's a part that we were taking for granted,
Yeah.
and now we're like, no, we don't take that for granted. We need to be with people.
So I started rambling, like I do, but I think folks that are we had a lot of people move in during the pandemic because they were afraid, they felt isolated,
Mhm.
and just knowing that we were here to help them make some decisions, to educate them, to provide those once or twice a day in-home meals, to go buy the groceries for all the
Be
things that
there. Yeah,
yeah
just be there for them.
all the things that we were doing, and just knowing you had a neighbor, even though you couldn't visit in each other's homes, just knowing you had that neighbor, or you had that call that you could seek help, having somebody to help. If they don't feel they have the sniffles, we do COVID test, right? And they'd have their results back in 24 hours. There are a lot of, and we geared all that information up. So during this time, we went public, through Zoom seminars, talking about what we're doing, how we're doing. I think I attribute that to our very, very strong occupancy level, at the end of 20.
Yeah, I agree. Well, John, one of the things I wanted to do now was to kind of move a little bit more personal. I kind of thought we might ask you to share with us in your years of experience, and to think back about the advice that people gave you, and what would you tell us was the best professional advice you've ever received?
Um, and I've done this, and I'm almost ashamed to admit it because it sounds lazy, but it's not if you do it the right way. But surrounding yourself with really good, talented people, because I can't do it all, know it all. Share your vision, share the organization's vision with them. If you get the right people with the right skill set, and you're sharing the vision, and get out of their way and let them do their work. Getting out of their way doesn't mean you just put them out there, and you've got to come back. You've got to mentor, provide, re-up on the vision, be there to listen and to provide support, share your appreciation, encourage those really good, talented, and I'll have to tell you, that's one of the things that has brought me some of the greatest satisfaction in my career, is working now younger, working with younger, talented individuals that, I'm asking myself the question, is this someone that I want to be a leader in in a life plan community when I retire there?
Right.
Is this someone that I would go to? And that's something that we've got to do a better job of, I think, and more of.
Mhm.
So again, identifying those individuals that are talented, that have the leadership qualities, they're smart, they have a love for what we do, and providing the support, the vision, and then getting out of their way, and doing more listening when you're working with them than, providing advice, because they're so smart, they have the answers. They just need the support and the encouragement to move forward with what they're thinking, and not micromanage. Personally, that's a struggle. It's gotten a lot easier, and also giving yourself and them the permission for when things don't go exactly right,
Mhm.
because the majority of times when things don't go exactly right, it's not life or death, although sometimes residents will act like it is, but it's really not.
Right.
And if you give yourself that permission, then you're giving yourself the permission to be innovative and creative and try new things, which we have to do that.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting that that's your choice of best advice, because many years ago when I was an admissions director, I asked the CEO of a hospital to come and speak at a community breakfast. And before he got up there, I asked him, he was doing a phenomenal job turning a failing hospital around. And I asked him, what would you say you did? I mean, what was your secret? And what he said to me is, hire the right people, give them clear direction, and then get out of their way.
Yeah.
That was exactly what he said to me. So that's really phenomenal advice for our folks that are listening as well.
Absolutely.
Well, John, we thank you very, very much for all your experience and your advice for people and your time for us today. We wish you to be safe and to be well, and hopefully we will get to see you soon.
Thank you. Hope to be able to see you guys in person soon.
I know.
So yeah, take care. Thank you for this time.
Thank you so much, John. It's always so good to talk to you. And for the people that are watching, please check out our LinkedIn page and our Facebook page so that you can see the speakers that are coming up during the series called From Their Perspective. Again, everybody, thanks for watching today, and stay safe.
And thanks, John.
Thank you, guys.
Bye-bye.